Welcome back to the table. Today, Ryan and I are going to tell you about our experience with Faraway. Truth be told, this isn't our first experience with Faraway. I've played it a few times before we even had a copy. Ryan, you just played it online on BGA.
This is my first physical experience playing the game. I will say they added this to BGA as part of their Essen release thing when they had a ton of Essen releases
Pre-Essen, right?
Or pre-Essen, just to give people a chance to play some of the games, which was really cool. This was one of them. And I liked it okay on BGA.
Yeah. It's a little harder to grok on BGA.
This is one exception to that rule. This was way easier to play.
Yeah.
In a physical format.
And play and just kind of understand. If you watched our chit chat recently, we talked about sometimes BGA changes the way things look.
Yeah.
And in this, it just makes more sense when you're at the table. Not to mention, if you're being taught the game, it's very a big advantage for the teacher to be able to be there at the table with you so they can kind of run through how the scoring works, because it is a very unique thing where it kind of turns the whole game on its ear, and you're like constantly reminded as you're playing, but especially when you're scoring that first game you play, where you're like, oh,
yeah,
I see how I needed to play my cards. Let's play again.
That is the unique thing to this game, because there's a whole bunch of systems going on, but the core really is you're just playing 8 cards, and you're playing them from left to right. So you're playing cards 1 through 8. But, and this is the part that burns my brain, that really makes this game interesting, you play 1 to 8, but then you score 8 down to 1. So when you're playing your cards out, you're like a normal tableau builder, you're expecting everything to fire left to right. But this is firing right to left. So you need to kind of have to plan, or at least try to like make something happen backwards, which that, even just trying to describe that blows my mind a little bit.
Yeah, and if you've ever played a game where you thought, oh, it would have been nice during the teach if someone had shown me an example of how it scores, this one I think is probably one of the most significant games that needs that. I would almost go so far as to start the teach with, here's how it's going to score, and I'll tell you how it's played in a second. But as you can see here, we have our 8 cards. Now we've stacked them, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And like Ryan said, it fires off in reverse, but I wouldn't even say fires off, because at the end of the game, after you've played all of your 8 cards, you're going to flip all of these cards over except for the last one you played. And by firing off in reverse, what Ryan meant is you score the last card first, but all the other cards are face down. So if that card requires some tags, because a lot of these cards are going to have tags on them that help you unlock scoring opportunities. And if there's a scoring opportunity on one that requires some tags, you don't generally have a lot of tags face up at that moment. Now, whereas once you get to the number 1 card, all of your cards are going to be face up. So if you have something like this one here requires these 3 tags to score this scoring opportunity down here, I'm more likely to have those tags all over my cards, like I have here, 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 and here, that lets me score that card.
Yeah, but the way to think about it, it's just tough, because as you play these cards, every card, well, I shouldn't say every card, but a lot of cards are providing several different things. They're providing scoring, like David said, but they're also providing the icons that you need for scoring. They're also different colors, because some things refer to the specific color of a card, or they're giving you different icons like maps, or if you even see on some of these numbers, some of them are yellow and some of them are blue.
Yeah, they're like day and night
cards. So like all these different things are mattering, plus the order that you play the cards matters. If you play cards in ascending order, meaning you play cards that are higher number after lower number, then you get access to these special sanctuary cards, which give you even more scoring opportunities. So when you're sitting there thinking about what card you're going to play, you're like, do I want to play one that's higher to get the sanctuary? Yeah. But is that going to be the right color? Is it going to have the right symbols in the right order? Is it going to score something that actually scores for me? All of these things you're kind of holding on to in your mind as you try to plan out the 8 cards you're going to play. But it's not like you just get to look at your hand and you have, this is the order. You're drafting these cards, so you have no idea what's going to come up later in the game.
Yeah, at the beginning of the game, you just have 3 cards, and in the advanced game, you get dealt 5, and you can select 3 of those, which I would highly recommend after you've gotten the game under your belt. And then there's always going to be cards equal to the number of players plus 1 face up in the center of the table. On your turn, everyone's playing a card, and it's not even really turns.
Oh, yeah. Simultaneous.
The beginning of the phase of the game, everyone plays one of their 3 cards face down, then everyone flips it over. When they flip it over, a couple things are going to happen. after the first rounds, meaning the second round and on, if you've, like Ryan said, played in ascending order and gone up, you're going to get sanctuary cards. You're going to get sanctuary cards, one for doing that, and then another one for every one of the map icons. And those sanctuary cards, like, I don't know if you mentioned this, but they remain face up.
They're really
all the
powerful.
time. They play under your realm cards or region cards. And those are going to provide some of those icons, as well as potentially some scoring, but they're always face up.
And potentially colors for your sets and stuff too. Yeah.
All the things that you want to basically make happen, they are there. So that's one way you can go, is try to get a lot of those map icons, keep going in ascending order. But it's trickier than that, because after that, and after everyone's sort of like gotten all their sanctuary cards and chosen one, you're going to look at who's played the lowest number all the way to the highest number. And whoever played the current lowest number is going to draft from those face-up cards first. So there are actually times where you see a card in the draft and you're like, I must have that card. So you might break the rules where you, like, instead of going higher this time, you play a lower card in your head, hopefully making it so that you're the lowest card, so you're going to pick from that draft first.
Yeah.
That's rare, but it can happen.
And sometimes you just need to. Like, when you're setting up your tableau, you're going to be in a spot where, like, maybe the best card in your hand is, like, in the 60s. And you look at everything else, and it's, like, all, like, 14s and 15. And you know you're going to have to reset your tableau, and you're not going to get a sanctuary card that round. That's going to happen. But if you can time that play to a moment where there's a card you really want, so you're not getting the sanctuary card, but you are drafting first, which is kind of the trade-off there. But then that also now resets your tableau. So now you just have to play higher than that lower number. So at one point, I dropped all the way down to 8. And then again, just down to 21, just to kind of reset my tableau so I could get sanctuary cards again.
Yeah, I actually started the game with the cards I had in my hand, knowing that I was going to probably play my first 4 cards up to 68. Now, I only had 3. I think I had 2 of these and this one. And then I drew, I think, the 44 on my first turn. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do 41, 44, 46, 68, giving me 3 sanctuary cards during that. Plus, I got this 68 card played that is a big scoring card, but it requires a ton of icons. These little icons above the scoring are what you need the moment you score this. So I needed to get those blue icons on the rest of my cards or on my sanctuary cards. And I'd already gotten 2 in my sanctuary, so I knew I needed to get 3 more before the end of the game. But it was a risk that I took, and I knew then that I was going to drop back down. So I didn't get a sanctuary card between these 2 cards, but then I grew back up. And again, at the end, it was kind of I anticipated that I would play a higher card, but I ended up not, because this green card actually served me a lot better.
10 points without a requirement. So there's definitely a lot of different layering puzzles to be solved here, which I guess could kind of lead us into talking about who this game is for.
Yes.
Because if you're a fan of tableau builders, we've talked about a lot of tableau builders before.
This year.
We love tableau builders. This year's been a wash with them. However, I have never played one like this that causes you to think about the game the way this one does. It's very unique and interesting, and I don't think there will be another game in your collection that's like this.
No, we've played some games, not just tableau builders this year, where we thought, you know what, this doesn't break any new ground, but it does what it does really well or whatever. This one absolutely feels unique. I've never played another game where you're like playing, and I would be really surprised if you played this your first time and you didn't have that moment at least part of the way through, or especially when you're scoring, where you're like, I get it now.
Yeah.
And then the other beauty is that it's short. And I think if you're a gamer who likes short games that you can play and then you enjoy, or that you didn't quite grok quite enough, but you want another go, you will definitely play this again. This falls into that category of like, let's just play this again. I think we just played this in less than 20 minutes.
Like for a 2-player game, 20 minutes, because it's simultaneous. You're doing the drafting. And I think that if you're looking for filler games, if you like the next unique game that you can bring to game night just to kind of play while you're waiting for people to get there, or if your game finishes early, like this is a good, solid 20 to 30-minute game. Even with 4 players, the game is not long because it is all simultaneous. There's only 8 turns in the entire game, and each turn is just drafting. So there's not like a whole lot you're actually doing in the game, but like you are going to kind of think about it really hard
when you're
trying to plan it out.
There is some thinking, and the more players you have at the table, the more likely you are to have that one player who wants to think a little longer than everyone else. But like Ryan said, you can play it at many different player counts, And I think this would be one of those fillers you're playing beforehand, and then everyone gets there, and then you're like, let's play it again. Let's play it again at 5 or whatever, because I think those new people, I think there's going to be people who like it so much that they're like, let's do this again.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of who it's not for, there is some degree of chance in here. Obviously, there's a big deck of cards.
I would even, as the one that doesn't like chance, there is a pretty big chance, but
pretty big. I mean, only in that you're drafting cards, so you know,
are drafting
information's
cards
out there, but you're not going to get all the cards you want, and you might be looking for sanctuary cards with certain symbols, and you might never get them.
And that's the point I want to point out, because if you're either going to be the player that loves this or a player that absolutely hates this. There is that moment, but when you played your last card and you're like, I just need this one more blue icon, and you draw your 2 sanctuary cards and you go, yes, I got it. And like, that's a great moment. I think people at the table like really like those moments. But then there's going to be equal amount of games where you draw them and you go, well, I just lost 24 points because I didn't get that card. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to happen. And you just got to know, like, can you roll with it? It's a 20-minute game. You didn't get the 24 points this game. Maybe you'll get them next game, or maybe next time you just won't even like try to play such a risky strategy.
And I do think it doesn't outstay its welcome. I think that's why even when you are on the downside of that sort of chance, it's like, okay, well, but let's go again. And then it might go the other way around. My first game, I had like the perfect storm. So I will admit that my first play of this, I was like, I might not ever play this well again.
No, and
I had a lot of really good, I scored like 100 and some points, which is a ton for this game.
Well, yeah, and this is a game too where like I know some people like to just get better every single game. I don't know that
this is going to be all over the place.
You will get better as a player. You will be able to understand the flow of the game better more plays, but your score will not go up because there will just be some games where you maybe pinned it all on a couple things that didn't pan out, and you could get 0 points.
Yeah, you could get. Well, I don't know that you'd play pretty bad. I mean, it is possible.
If you're loading up on blue stuff and you just don't get any blue icons, and you realize halfway through, like, I'm not going to be able to fulfill any of my first 4 scoring cards.
But I think what people will learn is this is not a game. If you want to score well, you don't place giant things at the beginning without at least maybe another card in your hand that has one of the things that you need to unlock it, so that you at least have a little bit of a start. You can look at the cards that are up for draft, the cards in your hand, and go, okay, I can comfortably play this card that needs 5 of the blue icons because between my cards and those, there's 3 that I see right now, and that doesn't even count the sanctuary cards you might be able to pull. The last thing I want to say about that is if you like the idea of playing different games, one of the big differentiators and the way I've seen people play this, some people will really like getting those map icons out because the more map icons you have out, when it comes time to get sanctuary cards, you're drawing a ton of them. I've played a game where I was taking 6 at one time.
You're only keeping 1.
You're only keeping 1, but oh my God, the flexibility of looking at all those 6, you're bound to get one of those blue icons that you need in those 6.
So.
Well, sure.
Again, back to that moment. You might not, and there will be times you don't. And
that would be a little frustrating if you drew 6 and you needed 1 and it didn't have it in there.
And I think another thing too, like this is going to vary from group to group, but just like with any tableau builder, and this is another reason why I think it's a little easier to play this at the table, is you have a pretty good idea of what other people are looking for.
Yeah.
There are tables that are going to see a lot more hate drafting than others.
Yes.
So you have to kind of know what your table is, but you could definitely expect if that card comes up, that's the perfect card for your tableau, and it's going to score you a ton of points. Chances are other people notice that as well. So you're going to have those moments where you're like, oh, that's the perfect card for me. I'm going to go low. Somebody else is going to go low too. You might lose it. And again, this is a game where you have to roll with those punches.
Yes.
Your pre-planned, predetermined strategy is probably not going to work. You need to make tactical decisions. You need to be able to pivot. And you need to just be able to, let it go when those things happen and find your points somewhere else, which admittedly, for me, can be kind of hard sometimes.
Yeah.
But the nature of the game being 20 minutes long makes that not really a huge deal.
Yeah, I'm a very tactical gamer, so I do like those sorts of moments a little bit more. As I play this game, I recognize as I'm playing, okay, this is going to be a throwaway card. Basically, the cards fall into 2 categories. One, they're giving you icons to help unlock some scoring on other cards, and the other ones have scoring on them that requires a bunch of icons. And there's some that have a little bit of both. This one gives me a blue, but also scores for all of my maps that I have face up at that time. So you're going to play some cards knowing, okay, I'm playing this. It's not really for the points. It's really because I absolutely want to make sure and score this one for the 24 points.
I think that's something that I've learned as I've played more games too, is like recognizing, not trying to score all 8 cards. Like that's you're not gonna probably.
Those are the games where you might end up scoring fewer of the cards even still, because you've not gotten all the stuff that you need. But anyway, that is Faraway. This is from Catch Up Games. It came out at SN. I can't remember who's bringing it to North America, but it's not out yet. It'll probably be out early next year sometime. But if you have any questions about it at all, please make them in the comments below. We'll be happy to get down there and answer whatever we can. Until next time, make sure everyone has fun at the table, and we'll see you then.